Hello and welcome to the Gearshift chat. And today we're talking about a Jaguar S-Type R.
Correct.
So, what's the specs on the car, Connor? Since you did the interview, you should know it.
Oh, supercharged, 400 horse, V8, 4.2 litre V8.
V8. If
V8.
anyone doesn't know, it's a V8.
Rear wheel drive, 5-speed gearbox.
Yeah, I think it's a 5-speed gearbox. Yeah.
Yeah, 5-speed gearbox. Is it an No, it's not an open diff.
Limited slip differential.
Limited slip diff in the rear.
Good man.
Any other specs? Cream interior.
Well, yeah, black and cream.
Black and cream and silver on the outside.
Yeah, so silver. It's got the it's the R ones as well. So it's got the better brakes, larger brakes. Obviously, more pots on the brakes as well. But yeah, super fun car and super fast car. 400 horsepower definitely gets you from A to B in negative 3 seconds.
That's it. Very, 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 very quick. Yeah.
And straight to 3 points in driver's license. You just get it and it's like, ka-ching, 3 points, 65 quid fine. It's like, what? No, to be fair, actually, my brother's never actually took the car speeding, and so he's never actually got any points. I mean, if I had a 400 horsepower car, I would have points. To be fair, actually, I would never speed. I don't speed.
The thing is with that car is when you get into like the higher numbers, like 60 and 70, when it is actually starting to go, it's really quiet and it's really quite slow power. Well, I mean, it's not slow, but like you don't feel the power building.
Yeah, if you're going to compare it to the Mercedes, the blue Merc we have, it's a very violent kind of acceleration. Now that could be obvious because it's maybe it has slightly different gearing. And the fact that it's also got, it's a bit louder and it's got a bit more. It just hits you like it wants to accelerate. Where with the Jag, obviously, it's more refined. It's quieter inside. It's more comfortable and relaxing, and you don't necessarily get that sensation of speed. It could also be that the fact the car is also slightly heavier, but I think the fact that it's so quiet inside and it's so well dampened. It's very hard to hear the sound, which obviously helps with feeling like you're going a lot faster. So I think that's what it is. But it's definitely a very quick car, and I don't think there's really much on the road that could beat it. Your standard Golf R is 300 horsepower.
Yeah.
You got 100 more, so you got another 30% more horsepower, a third extra horsepower than what you have in the Golf R. Only issue is Golf R and those kind of cars, like Jeff's S3. It's got 400 horsepower as well.
Yeah.
He has 4-wheel drive, so he can put the power down on the road.
Yeah. And like your brother said in the video, well, I think he said it in the video. Depends if I caught it. It's been a while since I watched it. He mentioned it can beat everything but the petrol station because it drinks fuel like you wouldn't believe it. Mainly because it's a V8 and as well it's supercharged, so that just adds an extra layer of gulp.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think he was getting, if he drives really, really, really nicely, he can barely make 30 to the gallon.
Yeah.
But, if you look at it, obviously you mentioned the supercharger doesn't help with fuel consumption. Now, if anyone doesn't know, like a supercharger is continuously being run off the belt, unless if you have something like the the SLK 230 compressor, which we previously spoke about, it's got a clutched supercharger. So with that there, you have general, when you're driving normally, the car automatically does it for you, but you have the clutched supercharger, so when you're driving normally, the supercharger is not engaged, and it's just like a normal, naturally aspirated engine. However, whenever you give it the beans, the clutch engages, and obviously the supercharger engages and starts pumping horsepower into it. Now, with the Jaguar, it's straight on the crankshaft. You have one belt. It doesn't have a clutch in it, so you always have the power, which is really, really nice. But the trade-off is obviously you end up having worse fuel consumption. And, if you're not using it very frequently, you're only just dawdling down to the shops and stuff like that, it's a rather large trade-off, fuel consumption. And,
yeah.
But, if you drive a supercharged Jag, I don't think fuel consumption is really at the top of the agenda.
The main thing probably on the agenda is, stolen DVDs and all of that.
Paintings in the back, yeah.
Paintings in the back.
Fraud.
Yeah. Tax evasion.
Yeah, typical Jag owners.
Typical Jag owners. Flirting outrageously with the waitress on your honeymoon sort of thing,
Yeah. And then get away with it because you've got a Jag. But
Well, actually, speaking of that, you can say that because
Yeah.
since that video,
I acquired myself a Jag.
so give
Yeah.
us a small rundown on what it is.
So basically, it's very similar to my brother's. It's the Jaguar S Type. I think it's a year newer, or year or two newer. But it's the S Type with the 4.2 litre V8. Now, unfortunately, the one I bought does not have a supercharger. It's just a naturally aspirated 4.2, but it's still producing 300 horsepower, which is quite a good thing. And you know, it's a little less or a little more understated, even though my brother's Jag is, well, it's very hard to know unless you know
Yeah.
quite well. But the Jag I've got, it's got a couple of things we need to sort out, but we'll definitely get on the channel shortly. And you know, it's not as muffled as my brother's car.
Yeah, it's
my
a lot
brother's car
louder.
has definitely much larger mufflers. So from that aspect, I like the sound of my one because
Yeah.
it's a bit more V8 like. But we can definitely get better fuel consumption. When I was driving, when I bought the car in Belfast, I drove it back and I think I got about 38 to the gallon, which is actually remarkably quite good. Cruise control on, sitting at 60 miles an hour. And I got a really good fuel consumption. I was honestly very shocked and surprised.
I actually didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I was really surprised.
And in my opinion, it has actually a much better interior than your brother's.
Yeah, so the difference between the two, if anyone doesn't know, is if you watch the video actually, my car is identical to my brother's. The only difference is my gauge cluster is slightly different. I've
Yeah.
got some small displays in them where his doesn't have that, and the major difference is mine is the black interior, fully black leather interior. Everything's black, as well as the wooden trim, of course. Where my brother's is the black and cream. So for me, I'm in engineering, so cars get relatively dirty, which is not the best. But you know, I'm not going to go and get changed just before I go to the shops full on, sure,
Yeah.
whatever. So I mean, the black interior is a good thing for me. Where for my brother, he works in an office. He doesn't necessarily get his cars dirty. So it was a good trade-off between the two. He's got a posh one. He's got the posh one of the cream interior.
The posh and sadly faster one.
Yeah, well, the Foster one.
But you have the more sort of understated but overstated because of it's louder.
Exhaust, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so it doesn't. Well, it's actually got a V8 badge on the back, which is obviously
Yeah.
coming straight off. And I'm going to put the 2.7 badge on the back, just for anyone who wants to, be curious. We'll leave it there. But yeah, no, the exhaust is quite nice. And I think my brother was hoping at some point he wants to. I think he actually mentioned it in the video that he would like to remove the mufflers or two of the mufflers.
Yes, he did.
So you end up having, well, you still have mufflers on the car, but it just gives it more of like that V8 rumble and burble, which unfortunately his car is very muffled. But no, it's a fantastic car. I love the Jaguar. I was actually never really a huge fan of the Jaguar S-Types. I preferred the X-Types myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Looks or...
I found, in my opinion, the S-Type is a rather old man's looking car, which it is. And when you have like predominantly, 2.7s or, it's mostly diesels and it's not nothing exciting. It's, old guy who's retired and he's
But the
spawning
X-Types
stuff
are
with Jag.
sort of similar. Like, I think the biggest engine you could get was like a 3-point-something liter V6 for the X-Type.
Yeah, so the X-Type, you never got a V8.
Yep.
But what I really liked about the X-Type is you got the four-wheel drive versions. And obviously they were made from the Ford Mondeo chassis back in the day.
Yes.
So they're cheap to repair. They're pretty reliable. They're basically Ford Mondeos, just with a better badge.
Mm-hmm.
So this was maybe pre-COVID actually. I was driving for about a year and a half and I was looking at changing from the Astra I had at the time and I thought, well, a Jaguar X-Type would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheap to run. It was a 2 or 2.2 diesel.
Oh, yeah.
Automatic, four-wheel. No, that wasn't mine. The one I was looking at wasn't a four-wheel drive because the four-wheel drive I think was only in the V6.
Yeah, the V6 petrol, sadly.
Okay.
Not. They never did a diesel version, which
Honestly, I have no idea.
I think I'm correct with this because I was trying to look at one and I would have, if I were able to get one, I would love it to be an automatic diesel,
Yeah.
4-wheel drive estate.
Which there might be, but there might be like
I don't think there are.
like hen's teeth.
Yeah,
No idea.
Yeah.
But no, I was looking at a Jaguar. I just thought it'd be a nice progression from obviously the Astra to a Jag.
Yeah.
It's more premium brand. you had the reliability of a Ford, cheap parts like a Ford, and the fact that it was, automatic instead of manual, but more spacious, comfortable, as well as, obviously having a station wagon, you have more space because I've got a Doberman. So I ended up not going for a Jag and ended up getting a Mazda 6 station wagon.
Yep.
And, it did the same job, but I think a Jag is obviously a fantastic car. I like them. And, I don't think you can really go too wrong with a Jag, except for the Jaguar XFs, which my brother has one.
Oh, yeah.
And they're troublesome cars. For anyone who knows them, the 2.7 V6 diesels continuously give issues.
Yep.
There's been the issues with the engines and a whole load of other things. But, going back to the S-Type, it's just a great car. From my opinion, they used to be very old looking to me until I figured out, actually, they're pretty cool cars. It's kind of one of those things where, you're in a car, or you see a car driving on the road. I said, I don't know. Why would someone ever buy it? Then you get in it and you drive it and you're like, okay, I can see why someone wants to buy this. And then you miss it and you went, okay, I'm going to buy this. I want this. So it's more one of those things where I don't think it's still the prettiest car in the world, but it grows in you. It's like the E-Class.
Yeah, because, it's an ugly, your E-Class is an ugly car, but it's also uglily beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those cars where it's like, it's the less desired ones.
Yeah.
And I heard a saying, I can't remember exactly it word for word, but it's, you must find a partner, and obviously this is in car relations, that is, basically it's more desirable to you than others.
I get what you mean. Find something that you can deal with, sort of.
No. Something you find more attractive than others. That's obviously love in a sense. But find something that's more desirable to you than other people.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, someone might like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, or, you'll get people that absolutely hate a Ferrari, even though they could purchase one because they prefer this car here because they find it more desirable. And it's one of those things, when you have a car, specifically something like classics, I tend to kind of like the more rare things. Everyone loves, the Jaguar E-Type. I've driven a Jaguar E-Type. Not a huge fan of them. They're small, they're cramped. The steering wheel's not fun.
Come on, they're beautiful.
They're beautiful.
Beautiful.
But they're a dog, in the nicest way.
They're the best. It's the best looking old-ish car.
E-Type Jags are fantastic, but they are dogs to drive.
I'll tell you this as a fun fact to do with the E-Type. The reason that it sold so well, or it was very popular at the time, was because it was so much cheaper than all the competition.
It was.
Back in the day, now this is surprising, a Ferrari was $6,000, or a Ferrari in the same level as the E-Type.
Yeah.
The E-Type was $2,000.
Cheap as anything.
I know, and so many people went for it. I can't remember a lot of the people, but I remember one of the people was George Best. He bought one. I think Frank Sinatra also bought one.
I'm not surprised. There's been
loads of them. Yeah,
they're very popular cars, but my opinion, having driven an E-Class Jag or E-Type Jag, it's one of those things. No, don't meet your heroes. It's a cool car.
Lamborghini Countach. That's it. Yeah.
It's a cool car. It's great to see it, but you really never want to be able to see one or drive one. It's great to look at, great to have someone else own it, but not great to drive. I mean, that's my 2 cents. Drop a comment if you disagree with me, but
yeah,
I like a driver's car, and that's the thing. The E-Class is a driver's car. It's not the prettiest car in the world, but it's a driver's car. It's fun, puts a smile on your face, and it's kind of grown on me. I think it is a rather pretty car.
Yeah, I do think it is, but like a lot of people don't like the way it looks. I like the way it looks.
Personally, I'm the same. I like the way it looks, and I've had a couple of people say, it's the ugly generation. But I'm like, where's yours?
Yeah.
Do an Andrew Tate on them. What colour is your E-Class W210 E430?
True.
Exactly.
Well, actually, to be fair,
if you have one, comment.
To be fair, yours is a 101 spec.
Yeah, basically. So my E-Type, it's the 4.2, 1998, and it's obviously the blue. I don't know the actual name for the blue. I should actually look it up. But we'll put the name here. Anyway, It's the only one that I can find, and the only one where I go onto the registry and look for like the cars, see how many are registered. It's the only pre-facelift E430 in the blue with the grey interior.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Amazing. Good
At least
spec.
that's
Good spec.
At least that's in the UK. I don't know elsewhere. That elsewhere could be something, but in the UK at least. And if you have one that's similar spec or the same spec, please comment. I'd love to see them, and I love those cars. They're fantastic.
And if one's for sale, he'll buy another one. You probably will.
The wink was too much. Anyway. No, I think the Jag was a cool video. There was an interesting thing that happened obviously at the end. So if you haven't watched it, there will be a spoiler about now. So what happened, Connor?
Well, we were just going through a normal sort of enthusiast drive through the B roads.
Yep.
Now, bit of back history to that. Your brother went to the workshop and asked your dad, "Can I do a service on the S-Type?"
Or no, yeah, he said should he do a service?
Yeah.
And my dad said
No.
it's fine.
Yep. And that came to bite them both in the bum.
Yes.
Because the auxiliary belt shredded.
We said serpent belt, and we had a comment that said, "This is not a serpent belt," explaining that it's an auxiliary belt, hence why the auxiliary belt part. But my brother, when he bought the car, he originally wanted to change the serpent belt, but it's a rather large deal to do. Now there will be a video coming out on how that was done, but the grand scheme of it is
we'll put a link. We'll put a link down below on what happened and how it got fixed. On the video when it comes out.
Yeah, sweet. So there is it's not just a standard auxiliary belt where you can just take it off and put a new one on within like 10 minutes like a Supra. However, this is one where you got to take the supercharger and you got to take the pulleys and dismantle half the front end to be able to do it. But no, so it was the thing about it. I was like, I'll be fine. Just don't worry about it. It's a future use problem if it ever happens. But my dad wasn't expecting it to break. But it did really well until that point where that was its day, and my brother foreshadowed it. He's had no issues with the car. It's been fine, been reliable.
He mentioned it in the video, except for O2 sensors.
O2 sensors, yeah. For some reason, it just likes O2 sensors.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Jags.
It's smoking.
Yeah.
Jag, cigars. Anyway.
It was quite funny in the video when we were driving up the roads. I was like, "Oh, this is great," and he says, "Oh," and just like his face goes white, and it's temperatures are climbing. Something's happened, and popped the bonnet, and he was like, "Okay, we'll just drive it back to the workshop." Got back in. No, we're not doing this.
They are not going anywhere.
Yeah, start smoking and everything.
I don't know why.
I mean, at least the engine wasn't broken. It was just a belt that came off. At least that was the least of our worries. And to be fair to your brother, he knew immediately what it was.
Yeah, so basically what happens is the auxiliary belt runs the water pump, it runs the air conditioning and the alternator. It might run something else. I'm not too sure exactly on that car. But those are the three things I definitely know it does run. So whenever the serpent belt broke, the battery light immediately came on the dash, which obviously means that there's an issue, it's not charging. So generally, either your alternator's packed in, but that's a very uncommon thing. So what happened was, the minute the alternator light came on, the battery light on the dashboard, you pretty much know that the auxiliary belt's come straight off. Now the issue is, with that car there, the water pump doesn't run off the timing belt, the timing chain. So in like a Corsa or like a Fiat 500, for example, the water pump actually runs off your timing belt or timing chain. Timing belt. Some of them are chains, some of them belts. But anyway, so you actually can still drive even if your auxiliary belt breaks. It just means you won't be able to charge the battery. So if you've got a diesel, you'll be fine, provided you don't need to have your lights on or radio, because the battery will just drain, and it's obviously glow plugs. Where with the petrol car, your battery obviously provides spark for your ignition. So if your battery voltage gets too low, car won't drive, it'll just die. But that's one way you can know. And then also the fact that, I think it was in the video, the air conditioning, it stopped working.
Yeah.
And the car started to fog up inside pretty much immediately, which is a telltale sign of your auxiliary belt breaking. But just something to look out for. It's an interesting thing. If you ever have an engine light come on randomly, or you ever have on the dashboard, the battery light come on, you should pretty much stop the car, double check that the auxiliary belt's okay, it's not snapped, it's not torn, it's not damaged. And, from that point there, check if your car has the water pump on the timing belt or if it's run off the auxiliary belt before you drive anyway, because you have a high risk of overheating the engine, which is not good. It's just come to me. What I was trying to say earlier was you've got to find a car that's disproportionately attractive to you or it's disproportionately interesting for you. That came from a quote from, I forgot his name, but he's basically talking about houses and stuff as well. And I thought it was quite relatable when you think about it, like the Blue Merc, the Jaguar S-Type. They arguably not the prettiest cars in the world, but there's something that just makes them disproportionately attractive to me.
Well done. Well done. You finally got it.
Big brain time. Anyway, no, I think so. We were talking previously about way we should maybe improve the channel. So if you have any ideas, drop a comment there below. Any suggestions. But what we did come up with was we watched obviously some Doug DeMuro, we watched some Matt Watson at Car Wow, and at the end of the videos they seem to give a bit of a dialogue on saying what the car is good for, etc., etc. And like Doug has the Doug score, Matt Watson has the
it's like 4 things. Should you buy it? Shortlist it?
Yes,
keep it. Like it's 4 separate things.
So I thought we should maybe come up with one ourselves. I thought it might be a good one as a future classic. Is it going to be a future classic? Or do we think it's going to be a future classic?
Okay.
Then the other one was?
Well, it's not price, but like how much it'll hurt the wallet. Or
how much it'll hurt the wallet, of course, because it's obviously short wallet cost and long-term wallet cost.
And then daily.
And then question is, should a car be a daily or not? So let's discuss this. On the Jag, personally, I think it's going to be a future classic, but I already believe it is a future classic. I've confused you. No, I think it's already starting to become a future classic.
Yeah, because
it's not a future classic; it is a classic because they're rather rare. The price is starting to increase, and you don't really actually see very many Jaguar S-Types anymore. Like when 10 years ago, you could see them all over. You go to the auction, Jaguar S-Type sitting there. Now you go to an auction, and I was actually talking to a scrapyard last week. Actually, I was looking for parts for my Jag, and I haven't seen one in 5 years. Like I was honestly shocked. But yeah, I definitely think the Jaguar S-Type, the 4.2 and the 4.2 supercharged, so the S-Type 4.2 like I have and the S-Type R, are definitely going to be very, very good classics to hold on to. Now, obviously we're talking about how badly it hurts the wallet. The initial wallet cost on those cars
is not
awful.
It's not awful.
And it will be growing. But what the main thing is, like, if you really take a car, you say, okay, I'm going to spend 10 grand buying a new car. And like, let's say you spend 10 grand buying a 2010 Audi RS4. How much is that car going to cost to maintain and keep in the long term? Having to change the brakes on a RS4 like that is like 2 grand. Just that there is immediately that's just discs, not even pads or labor. That's rather expensive. So I think the Jaguar S-Type R and the S-Type 4.2 are in a nice little bit of a niche where they're not awfully hard on like the wallet on maintenance, and like they definitely could be better, but they're definitely not awful. I think a sensor cost is about 120 quid, which is rather reasonable if you're handy enough to be able to do maintenance yourself. It's pretty much cheaper than having any other car, if you send it to a mechanic. But, if you do have to send them to a mechanic, there's obviously mechanic fees, but the parts aren't awfully bad.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Should it be a daily?
Personally, if I were driving, if I were taking that to Tech and back, that's a long drive. So for me, it probably wouldn't be the smartest decision. I would take it maybe to college, just the occasional time, but I don't think I would do it because it's too hard on fuel. There's not a lot of space in the back, and it's just becoming a bit more collectible. It's to the point where I just don't know. Like, I get it for your brother. He doesn't do a lot of miles on it. He doesn't take it really far, and if he does take it really far, he'll take a different car instead. Mm-hmm. So he has that option.
Yeah, so my brother doesn't really do huge amounts of miles, and he predominantly drives the Jaguar XF whenever they're doing like going to the shops and doing the normal stuff. But if he's going for a long coast drive to up the coast, or going down to Dublin or whatever, he'll take the Jag generally. Obviously, it depends on the good weather or not, because 400 horsepower is quite a lot of horsepower in the rain and sometimes
rear wheels and
yeah. But I think personally, I would say it's a future classic. I would say. It's maybe, we should do it out of a 10. 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
I think it's a future classic number 6. I think it's
I agree with you, number 6.
Starting to get there. I think expense costs for it.
8.
It's a V8.
8.
Rather reliable. There's never really any issues.
Well.
The biggest issues is rust. And if you get one that's been looked after or had rust treatment already done, I would honestly say maintenance costs maybe around a 3 or 4. For a classic car, I think that's rather reasonable in my opinion. Parts aren't awfully expensive. They're not super exotic cars. It's not like a
in
Ferrari
what way are we doing it? Like 10 the most, 1 the lowest?
Yeah, 10 the most expensive, 1 the least expensive. So I'd put like an Audi RS4 with £2,000 brakes around a 6 or 7 or 8. Because obviously the cost of parts alone. Like labour, I think for this one here we should neglect labour costs. Because you got different mechanics charge you different amounts of money, and really at the end of the day, it kind of goes down to the parts. And obviously, there's a complexity on how easy it is to change the parts, but I would say probably a 3 or 4 for maintenance costs.
Okay.
All rather common parts, and I think how badly it hurts your wallet. I would say for what it is, for the amount of horsepower you get in, for the fact that it's going to be a classic car, and the like sheer rarity of them. And the fact that there's not a huge amount of people jumping on the bandwagon, I would say the cost of them is probably a 2 or 3.
I mean, I said 8. Maybe I'll probably put it to like a 5.
Yeah. Well, if you think of it this way, right?
Because the brand Jag isn't known for their reliability.
Are you talking about what are you talking about here? The cost of.
Sorry, no. Well, okay. So cost. So like you may be hit with quite a hard like not fine, but like fix or
repair
something.
Costs,
repair that you might get hit with something like that. That could be quite high. So that might be quite high to fix, and then. No, it's not incredibly expensive, but then the fuel comes onto it, so I'd probably give it like a 5.
Okay, fair enough. So you think a 5, I think a 3 or 4. So you want to meet in the middle around 4, 4.5?
Okay, 4. We'll go 4.
So we're gonna go 4 for the how badly it hurts your wallet in the short term and long term.
Yep.
We're gonna go for daily. I would say as a daily, probably around 5. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It's something you can live with.
I agree. 5.
And I think the future classic, definitely up there, 6 to 7.
Go 6. We both said 6. We both agreed on 6.
6. So how much is that? 6, 4 is 10. And 5,
so 15.
15 out of 30.
Pretty good. Well, I mean, that's bang
That's
in the middle.
a reasonable score.
That's bang in the middle.
Perfectly well balanced, as all things should be.
15 out of 30. Okay.
And on that note...
Well, time to get the spreadsheets out and start data logging all of this.
What we should do is actually maybe on the next podcast, because it's you'll find obviously the video in the next few days.
Log every
could do
car.
all our cars we've currently filmed
Yes.
as a catch-up to that there, because the next one's a rather short video, so that's probably the best one to do.
Not bad.
We'll do a catch-up on it.
We'll do that. Okay.
Next week, Monday, watch us.
Perfect. Well, on that note,
It's time to go.
thank you so much for watching, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Good night!
Time to go to the petrol station, mate. We need fuel. I'm joking.
Jags, what can
Let's
I
go.
say? See you in the next one. Bye-bye.